Give the vial to me. I want to see its full beauty. All of it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if that's entirely possible. This creature, it's different somehow.
I've gone my whole life searching for this. For your sake, I hope you haven't come back to me empty-handed.
I can promise you, you won't be disappointed.
Oh, it's beautiful. I've never seen a Pokemon like it.
That's because it's not a Pokemon. Well, not as we typically understand them to be. It's merely a cell. Together, they can do great things.
If what you've told me is true, we've got plenty to spare. This little one will serve us well as a test. Bring it to the lab.
Finally, we're introduced to you, the protagonist. Just like in base X and Y, you're a 16-year-old kid who just moved here from a faraway region. Right off the bat, I do like the fact that X and Y gave us slightly older protagonists. It's much more believable that you're able to accomplish so much by being older, and it'll work well for the expanded responsibilities your character is given by adults in this game. So for the sake of this story, let's say that you choose to play as the male protagonist, Calum. That reserves the other one, Serena, to serve as your rival, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. You're given the chance to explore your new hometown, Vaniville. It's one of the nicest parts of Kalos these days. Many of the region's major cities have had increased levels of problems in recent years, so your mom figured this was the best place to keep you safe. After you check out this town and the next, Aquacord Town, you hear a cry from the nearby route. That's when you see a young girl about your age. She's cornered against the river, with a wild Bunnelby, Pidgey, and Zigzagoon all standing on the riverbank, seemingly pretty agitated. She cries to you for help, but she's frozen in fear. If she moves even an inch, the enraged wild Pokemon could hurt her, or they could get into town and wreak further havoc. So, it's up to you. You look to the ground in front of you, and you see a briefcase, containing 3 Pokeballs. This is where you pick your starter, of course. A choice between Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. And we'll go with Froakie for the sake of this story. Now, you get your chance to engage in your first wild battle. Higher stakes, no tutorial, and it's a battle against all 3 wild Pokemon at once, giving you a preview of Horde battles, which was a mechanic introduced in X and Y, so we need to incorporate it here somehow. After you defeat the 3 Pokemon handedly, the girl turns to you. She introduces herself as Serena, and she thanks you for helping. Despite this interaction, she doesn't seem to want much to do with you. She seems pretty embarrassed that she couldn't handle the wild Pokemon encounter on her own, and she asks that you give her Pokemon back, because she was on her way to hand them off to someone pretty important that she works for. Only problem is, Froakie seems pretty bonded with you already. Just then, she gets a call on her Holocaster. It's the Kalos region's head Professor Sycamore. Flustered, Serena confesses to him that she's running late because of the encounter with the wild Pokemon, but she assures him that she'll meet him in Lumiose City on time, just like she promised.
And you were rescued by this boy? He must be a powerful trainer.
Serena seems pretty upset at this point. She tries telling the professor how you stumbled on the scene by accident, and how she's more than capable of handling stuff like this herself. But the professor doesn't seem to listen.
Well, trainer or no trainer, you do owe him a debt of gratitude. He seems pretty capable. My Froakie over there does look to be quite content in his company. And say, with everything going on around the region, I do need another lab assistant these days.
With that, the Froakie is officially in your custody, and you're invited to meet Sycamore in person, alongside Serena in Lumiose City. Reluctantly, Serena welcomes you to the research team, and she tells you to meet her by the same bridge the next day. With that, your journey through Kalos is about to officially begin. The next day, the two of you venture through the Santalune Woods, catching a few Pokemon of your own and adding some to your team if you'd like. And Serena seems to be warming up to you. She even offers to battle you here in the woods, where she has a team of Chespin and Fletchling. Again, this is going by the assumption that you picked Froakie for the sake of this video. So just like in the games, your rival's team would be different depending on your choice of starter. I'll only be presenting her Chespin-oriented team throughout this video due to our assumed pick of Froakie, so keep that in mind. After the battle, she admits that she respects your immediate competence as a trainer. After all, she's the daughter of a regional icon and talented trainer who was the champion of Kalos before the current one, Diantha. For Serena's youngest years, she was surrounded by very high expectations to live up to, so she prides herself heavily on her role as the professor's assistant. As long as you don't make her look bad in front of him, she's happy to teach you the ropes. But as she's telling you all this, a suspicious pair of characters come into view. Two weirdly well-dressed scientists, who begin to scan the natural surroundings with a mysterious device. Serena gives you a worried look.
You two, you're about to interfere, aren't you?
They challenge the two of you to a double battle as a diversion. You win, but the distraction works. The device glows a sickly shade of green, and the scientists disappear. With little more you can do about the matter, you and Serena decide to venture into the next town. Here in Santalune City, you split with Serena so you can explore on your own. By all accounts, Santalune is a beautiful resort city. You can find a whole range of things to do. Shopping, cafes, the gym, and of course, the Rhyhorn racing track, which would be an actual minigame here. Santalune is beautiful, sure, but there is a negative side to the consumption and wealth around you. In the route right next door, there's a massive landfill. It's kept out of sight, out of mind, for the people enjoying a resort lifestyle at the expense of the natural landscape. When you check it out yourself later that evening, you meet Viola, a young woman who seems to be a photographer. She explains that she's trying to capture photos of how the pollution is affecting wild Pokemon habitats alongside the racetrack. After all, she's an avid bug catcher and gym leader of the town, so she wants to use her influence to make a difference, since no one else seems to be stepping up. She seems to appreciate your willingness to listen to her, and she offers you a chance to challenge her back in the gym. You begin to head back to town, but when you reach the plaza, you run into another pair of scientists once again, this time scanning the fountain with a similar device to the one from the woods.
Ugh, this town disgusts me. All I see around me is endless consumption. It's so ugly. I know you're a curious trainer, but for your own good, stay out of what you don't understand. This cube contains more beauty than you could ever know.
They dash off once again, but you don't think much of it. Now, whenever you're ready, you can challenge the gym, where you face off against Viola. She would use a Surskit, Burmy, and her ace, Vivian. No big changes to her team, besides the addition of Burmy. This is the first gym after all, but keep in mind I have some big changes coming up for most, if not all, the major boss battles in the game. After defeating Viola, you earn yourself the Bug Badge. Before you leave town, Viola asks if you can take her photos to the nearby Lumiose News Network offices to see if they'll run a story based off of them, since you're headed that way anyway. She tells you to look for her sister, who's a reporter for the network, and she's always looking for a headline story. So you head out of town. You visit the beautiful gardens on Route 4, and you head up to Lumiose City. Here, the bright lights instantly capture your eye. It's everything you thought it would be. Decadence, luxury, and beauty. There are tourists bustling about, alongside well-dressed socialites, and the very elite of Kalos. However, you also see a whole lot of police presence, wondering why that is. After all, the central boulevard of the city, where you are, seems awfully nice. There's no crime to enforce. They seem tense though. You can explore the shops, salons, and galleries on the outermost boulevard, and all the beauty Lumiose City has to offer. In this version of Z, 3 times as large as it already is in X and Y, and I imagine it would all be accessible right from your first visit here. Nothing is blocked off. After all, I want this Lumiose City to be a character of its own, a true city that you could revisit in a hub-like format. That means it would have everything you know and love, but plenty of darker sides as well. Whatever you choose to seek out. Only thing that wouldn't be accessible though would be the center point of the city, Prism Tower. NPCs would explain to you that it's under emergency repairs, since the city has been experiencing unprecedented power shortages in the last few months, so the tower's lights and observation elevators are closed off to the public, indefinitely. Whenever you're ready, you find Serena, who seems to be pretty excited to finally be in the big city. convinced that so much of her life has led up to a moment like this, where she gets a chance to show the wide open world how great of a trainer she is. She leaves, and you hear a commotion from across the street. A group of photographers seems to be crowding a cafe, where one woman is trying to exit. She seems awfully nicely dressed, so you figure she's probably important. The crowd seems to be begging her to answer. Where's she been for the last 2 years? Why isn't she accepting any challengers?
Let Diantha pass through. Is this any way to treat your esteemed champion? Shoo, all of you.
The woman is polite to the adoring crowd, but she seems off. She seems overwhelmed and exhausted, like she hasn't slept in days. A limousine swoops in to pick up Diantha, and the crowd disperses. Next, you make your way up to the Lumiose News Network building, where Viola instructed you to go. There you introduce yourself to the reporter Alexa, Viola's sister. You explain the photos that were taken by Viola, and the issues plaguing southern Kalos from all the untreated pollution coming from the north. Alexa thanks you for your time, but she seems a bit nervous. She discreetly tells you that large corporations, like the city's biggest waste management company and a few Pokemon item manufacturers, are major parts of the news network's ownership group. So it might be hard to publish a story concerning something that would put them in a bad light. She tells you for now, it's best to just ignore the story. But she invites you to stick around, so you can watch the network's first program of the day.
It's the Lumiose News Network! Right away, we'll be covering some breaking developments from around town. Crime is on the rise here in Lumiose City, and our brave police are taking desperate measures. Who's the man behind the mask of the mysterious vigilante calling themselves Essentia? And are they really here to protect us?
I mean, who is this masked freak? And how do we even know he's on our side? My family and I live near North Boulevard, and we're too afraid to go outside at night anymore.
More after the break.
After the broadcast, you leave the building, and you meet up with Serena once again, telling you it's finally time to meet the professor. Both of you make your way to Sycamore's lab, a beautiful building on one of the city's central boulevards.
Ah, Calum, I've heard much about you. Your strength as a trainer is formidable, no doubt. You've already gotten a gym badge of your own. Bravo!
Sycamore would do essentially what he does in the games already. He'd be a friendly ally on your journey as a trainer, and he'd give you the opportunity to pick one of 3 Kanto starters, because I do think that was a pretty great addition to X and Y. So here's a choice between Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. For the sake of this video, we'll be going with Charmander. Sycamore asks you to battle with the new Pokemon he gave you. Serena's team is stronger now, and she's sure that she'll beat you with not 1 but 2 type advantages. Here she's got a Quilladin, Fletchling, and her new Squirtle, but somehow you still come out on top.
Oh! The Pokemon I gave you are quite strong. Indeed, they have a lot of potential. Of course, you know that Pokemon from all regions are capable of evolving, yes? These little ones are no stranger to the phenomenon. But, did you know that here in Kalos, certain Pokemon can exceed even their maximum strength at times? Of course, I'm talking about Mega Evolution! For thousands of years, it was part of Kalosian culture, practiced among only the worthiest of heroes in ritual combat. A truly noble art. But children, you must understand, the roots of this divine practice are no accident. 1,000 years ago, this nation's first king, AZ, ruled a prosperous kingdom. That is, until civil war broke out. It waged for months. No one exactly knows what happened, of course. But legends say the man built a beacon, a powerful device that brought peace, ceasing the fighting altogether. Some even say the beacon was given life by a powerful Pokemon. Regardless of what this beacon did, it was a true blessing. Because, children, its effect still lingers to this day. For the next millennia, certain Pokemon across the region found ways to tap into a mystical energy force, one that gives them enough power to Mega Evolve. As our nation prospered once again, humans began to worship these Pokemon, though they interpreted their powers as divine influence. That is, until myself and my research team recently discovered that the power emitted upon Mega Evolution, well, it has the same traces of radiation left behind by AZ's beacon. It's a truly beautiful thing. AZ's everlasting gift to us all. Now, you've no doubt heard that Kalos has had his fair share of energy problems the last few years. I believe I have the solution to that. Mega Evolution may be a lost art to all but the region's most elite, but if we can bring it back, if we can harness its energy, well, we may be able to bring boundless energy to the region for the next millennia. All I want is for the next generation to live in peace, in security. In a place called Shillor City, there's a man in a tower who keeps the art of Mega Evolution alive. There, you'll be able to learn more. I'm sure of it.
Serena seems determined. It's been her life goal to be a hero for Kalos just as her parents were, so she's more than ready to take on the task. The two of you take off again, and it's time to head west, to coastal Kalos. You make your way through Campfire Town and the Parfume Palace, which would both exist in this game as optional locations rather than mandatory side quests for the Snorlax flute. There you could explore the palace at your own pace, and learn some scattered information about how it was built by the King AZ, just like the beacon, and how it's widely celebrated as another gift to the region. Though sources on AZ's actual life are pretty fuzzy, per employees at the castle. After you're done with that, you can continue on west through Route 5, where you discover the Battle Maison, and much more of Kalos' touristy side. Plenty of luxury exists here for humans, but sadly, you notice more signs that wild Pokemon habitats are virtually non-existent as a result of this. Instead, they're replaced by paved roads and neatly trimmed grasses. You pass through caverns, cliffs, and coastlines to head down to Ambrit Town, a pretty small mining community on the west coast of Kalos that was built a decade or so ago as a home for workers, who dig underground for resources in the nearby Glimmering Cave, a labyrinthine cave system home to tons of raw energy that could help fuel Kalos. So massive excavation projects have commenced. Here you can explore the Fossil Research and Energy Facility, and even get one of your own. But the scientists there tell you they need the help of a strong trainer. Apparently tons of workers have been taken hostage by a strange group of scientists. Puzzled, you head into the caves to help out. When you reach the end of the caverns, you encounter a strange-looking scientist with some of his goons. He's holding Ambrit Town's workers hostage, forcing them to dig deeper into the caverns. They warn him that any further excavation could cause collapse in the tunnel walls, but the scientist doesn't care. He's clearly after something specific. After all, he carries a familiar-looking device that shines brightly. He notices you, turns around, and challenges you to a battle. It's a 2-on-1 double battle with the scientist and his henchmen. This also seems like a good idea to mention the Pokemon that members of this mysterious organization use. In Pokemon X and Y, it never made sense to me that they were using generic evil or gross Pokemon, or the fact that their members were bumbling, fashion-minded morons. Here, their teams and their characterization would primarily consist of two themes: progress and beauty, so they all use Pokemon that either display a high degree of intelligence or have a high aesthetic purity to them. Here's the full list of possible matchup you'd face throughout Z. Keep in mind, I won't be detailing specific battles beyond the major ones. You hold these two scientists off well enough. But after some time, it's clear they're overpowering you. Just then, a shadowy figure emerges from behind you. Who is this mysterious man? He sends in a Krogan to assist you in battle, and the two of you win, warding off the scientists for now, and saving the Ambrit workers. The man steps out of the shadows.
You recognized right away that I was someone extraordinary. Your power of observation is fearsome. Quite admirable you are. Now that my cover's been blown, let me introduce myself. I am a globe-trotting elite of the International Police. My name? No. I shall inform you only of my codename. My codename is Looker. Incidentally, are the strange happenings around the Kalos region familiar to you?
He explains further, saying that he was dispatched to the Kalos region several weeks ago to investigate repeated patterns of these scientists, all dressed similarly, repeatedly threatening people around the region, calling themselves members of Project Flare. Looker explains that he's now chased down and identified several Flare members, and he's learned that they're all defected scientists from various public and private sectors around Kalos. Looker fears that they're banding together for some nefarious purpose, using these. He shows you what he's taken from the scientists so far. A cell-like creature.
If I may ask this of you, I've got no luck, no leads, nothing but dead ends. Perhaps joining forces with you will be the kick this case needs to get to the next level.
You decide to pair up with Looker. After all, it's your responsibility to protect Kalos and research all sides of it, as an assistant to Sycamore. Plus, maybe the energy contained in the cell creature and its vial could prove useful in Sycamore's quest to solve Kalos' energy shortage. So, you promise to check in with Looker throughout your journey, and you continue on your own way. You head north, up through the coast, and finally into Silage City, Kalos' premier outdoor resort and sports centers. Right away, you notice a film crew on the beach, as they're interviewing Grant, the town's gym leader who's also a championship-winning rock climber and triathlete. Somewhat of a Kalos region celebrity. After the interview concludes and the crowd disperses, he approaches you.
Oh, you're here. You must be Callum, yeah? I figured your journey would head towards my fair town. As a gracious host, I will, of course, permit you to challenge my gym, but let me make myself clear, child. I've heard rumblings of a Project Flare of some kind. Whatever the case, none of those affairs will be brought into Silage. Do I make myself clear? It's not that I'm pro-Flare, far from the matter. But if these beachgoers heard trouble brewing on this picturesque coastline, tourists would flee in droves. Come to my gym when you're ready, but leave all nonsense at the door.
The fight with Grant was actually pretty good in X and Y. He uses two pretty strong Pokemon for this point in the game, but I'd give him an added boost by giving him a Relicanth, alongside his Tyrunt and Amora, since I think it fits how he's essentially specializing in ancient, rare, or fossil Pokemon, given his affluent and celebrity-like status. After you defeat him, you earn your Cliff Badge, and you head on your way once again. You head north, through the open fields of Route 10, and you come across a strange sight. Thousands of stones, standing upright. What could they mean? You talk to two different elders in the town. One who believes these stones were a solemn memorial to Pokemon lost in a great tragedy long ago, and one who believes these stones were erected in triumph, to symbolize a great new age for the region. Both elders agree that these stones were erected about 1,000 years ago, to be precise. You come across a figure standing at the base of one of the largest stones.
Young man, do you know the purpose of this beautiful monument?
You could answer him based off of whichever elder you believe more.
I'm confident that I can trust your judgment. You seem like a perceptive trainer. To tell you the truth, I'm here to discover what happened 1,000 years ago myself. It's funny. Looking to the past can be a messy thing. We glean from history what we want to believe, and we ignore what we do not. That's why we're both here, isn't it? As an artist, I must do my best to look at an ugly, distorted past, perhaps move on from it fully. Then, I can envision the future I wish to create. Your Pokédex. You must be a scholar of Sycamore, an old friend. I was once his partner in business, building a grand future for the region together. Alas, our paths diverged, and I wish him nothing but the best. Now, my path lies in fashion, the creation of beauty. Now, Calum, what is your path? If you please, show me through a friendly battle.
He'd use a team of Roselia, Absol, and Litleo. 3 very beautiful Pokemon that he says inspire him as an artist. He leaves, and you move on once again, ready to meet up with Serena for the part of your journey that you've both been waiting for. You've finally made it to Shallower City, one of Kalos' oldest cities and the former capital of the old monarchy. A towering, beautiful construction which now stands as a historical landmark and as a religious site. There, Serena says, you'll finally find the elder Sycamore was talking about. You try to enter the tower and explain your case to the guards, but you're immediately stopped by them, who bring you to a young girl. She may not look the part, but she's the granddaughter of the elder. Her name, Karina. She knows exactly what you're here for, and she seems pretty suspicious of you. After all, there have been strange cases across the region of Project Flare members threatening those in power, and now 2 kids working for the Professor seem to be after one of Kalos' most legendary secrets. So she admits that she can't exactly trust you two, and she needs you to fight her and get a gym badge from her if you even want to earn the right to speak to her grandfather. So, off to the Shallower City gym you go. You face off against Karina, who would use Pancham, Mienfoo, Hawlucha, and Lucario. Only this is no ordinary Lucario. She's giving you a harsh introduction to the awesome power of Mega Evolution, certain that she'll be able to crush you swiftly with the surprise transformation to her ace. But somehow, you come out on top. She had no idea that you'd be able to defeat a Mega Evolution Pokemon for the very first time, just like that. But a deal is a deal. She agrees to take you up to see her grandfather, but she's still too salty about the loss to even give you a gym badge right away. That'll wait until after the tower. You and Serena begin to climb your way up the Tower of Mastery. You climb up step after step as the sun sets. And you feel a sense of power emanating from this place. Surely there are secrets to be uncovered once you reach the top. Where you finally encounter Gherkin, Karina's grandfather, and the keeper of Mega Evolution. He stares at you both silently, motionless. Serena begins to explain to him why you've both come, on behalf of the Professor, and she can't help but add that her whole life has led to this moment. A chance to finally unlock this power for herself, and follow in her dad's footsteps. But Gherkin shakes his head. He doesn't want to hear any of it.
Typical Sycamore feeding you youngsters with idealistic solutions. He's a great man, but, well, let me tell you the real story of Mega Evolution. As you well know, Kalos was a prosperous kingdom 1,000 years ago. That is, until the age of AZ. In his time, few legendary Pokémon were known to man. Only one was known to AZ, Zygarde. A fearsome serpentine Pokémon, one with enough power to keep order, change, create, or even destroy entire ecosystems at its will. That kind of power was tempting to a man seeking the throne. A once brilliant man, he reclused from society, devoting his life to a mechanical obsession, asserting and keeping power by finding the biggest source of it in the world. AZ spent his whole life searching for Zygarde, and when he finally found what he was looking for, calamity. Thousands were lost, and Kalos, it was changed forever. Over the generations following this event, many Pokémon gained the ability to transform into terrifying new forms. These Pokémon weren't just cursed at the time, no, some believe that when AZ fired his weapon it was too much for even Zygarde to bear. The Pokémon splintered, leaving its energy scattered across the region, continuously contaminating Pokémon to this very day. But no one has ever even seen Zygarde, so it's all left to rumor. All of this should make you realize, children, the legacy of AZ exists to this day. Every Pokémon marked by Mega Evolution surges with the curse of AZ's power, the cataclysmic forces of evil and corruption, all because of the choices of one man. So, excuse me if I don't beam at the prospect of two young trainers looking to wield this dangerous power to fix the region's problems once again. It's a fool's errand.
You take a moment. It's a much grimmer picture of Mega Evolution than even the Professor told you in Lumiose. Maybe Gherkin is right, and the Professor is wrong, but Sycamore seemed to have plenty of conviction himself. Plus, for such a major event, why are there two completely different interpretations that exist to this day? Serena's confused as well. She can't help but ask Gherkin, if Mega Evolution is so bad, if it's not the key to success like she thought it was, why is it worth saving? Why is it even worth staying in this tower and devoting a life to preserving it? Gherkin takes a moment, but then he answers you.
The only way to end a cycle of violence is to better understand its cause and make the best of the circumstances we've been given. Mega Evolution is dark, yes, but it's here to stay. Whether I like it or not, whether I fear it or not, it remains. I can control that no more than I can control the ebb and flow of the tides that crash beneath this tower. I love Kalos for all that it is, and Mega Evolution is now just another part of its natural law. And when you love something, it's your responsibility to understand it, to guide it, to protect it. All sides of it.
He explains that while Mega Evolution is a dangerous thing, it is, after all, his sworn duty to pass it on, so its legacy isn't completely forgotten. He shows you both a Mega Ring. He'll let you decide which one of you gets it, through battle. In this tough challenge, Serena faces you with her evolved starter, her evolved Kanto starter, Fletchender, and the fossil that you didn't pick in Ambrit Town. After you defeat her decisively, she concedes the inheritance of the last Mega Ring to you. You earned it. But she seems pretty upset with herself. After this, Serena leaves. She wants to journey on her own for a little while, and she wants to figure out why she wasn't good enough for Megas. You head east to the next town while you look to report your findings to the professor, but along the way, you give Looker a call, like you promised. You explain to him what you've been up to. You haven't seen more Project Flare members, but you did learn a potential connection. Maybe the ancient weapon's residue energy that the guru mentioned has something to do with these cells that keep turning up. However incredible it may sound, you have a suspicion that they may be the remnants of Zygarde that the guru mentioned. After all, those Flare people seem to keep talking about amassing power with those weird green boxes. If they want power to begin, going after anything related to Zygarde might be a good place to start.
This plot keeps on getting thicker. If this green guy has all the power of Mega Evolution like you think he does, then whoever's after him must be planning to light something up with it, big time. That isn't gonna be pretty.
Looker tells you to meet him in Lumiose City shortly, but first you gotta continue your journey east. You reach Coumarine City, and you see Professor Sycamore standing on the dock of the bay. You explain your interaction with the Elder to him, and he seems confused as well. He's still not convinced that Mega Evolution is the volatile, tragic power that the Elder says it was. And as far as Zygarde goes, well, that's the first he's really heard of it. So just like any good project, this will take a lot more research. He instructs you to travel to Lever City when you get a chance, where you and him will meet with the ultra-billionaire owner of the Pokeball factory. If anyone knows a thing or two about energy production, it's him. But first, you're free to travel through a few more cities on your way to Lever. Here in Coumarine, there's a gym you can challenge as well. Ramos, the grass-type gym leader. I don't really have any ideas on how to fix him as the character, to be quite honest. But that's okay if a few gym leaders remain minor in this story. But I do have a fix for his team. Here, he uses a Weepinbell, Jumpluff, Go-Goat, and a Venusaur, which he could transform into Mega Venusaur. That's right, every gym leader from Karina onwards has one Mega Evolution capable Pokemon. So get ready for that, cause it's also their strongest. After you defeat Ramos, you earn your plant badge. Your next step is heading back to Lumiose City, and then east to Lever City. Plus, you also promised to meet Looker in Lumiose, but to get there, you'll have to cross the Lumiose Badlands. As you travel south, the lush coastal hills dissipate, leaving barren factories and dried up crop fields. Eventually, the rich soil even turns into a hard clay, and you've officially reached the heart of the desert. It's a massive environment, too harsh for any settlements. All there is here is a massive power plant facility, alongside some broken down roads and a few abandoned shells of what was once buildings. It all feels very out of place. It leaves you wondering what natural conditions could have resulted in such a depressing landscape in Kalos. Just then, you see a figure standing in the distance, alone. It's your old friend, Lysandre, and he looks a lot sadder than he did in Geosenge Town. He asks to battle you once again. This time using a team of Roselia, Pyroar, Absol, and Kirlia. After you defeat him, he seems to ease up once again.
Do you know where we stand?
He'd ask you, leaving you to answer. You could either say you think it was a natural desert, or if you think it was a man-made wasteland. Either way, Lysandre would be pleased by your answer and your intellect for a kid.
Where we stand now is a desert indeed, crawling with ground-type Pokemon who have made it their home. But it was once my home. This plateau was once home to a town as beautiful as any other in Kalos. A shining utopia for the future, meticulously planned, robust infrastructure, even a Pokemon gym of our own. We lived in peace. We were a shining example of Kalos' future. A veritable utopia, built upon the ideals of progress and expansion. But we grew too fast. Our leaders failed us, resources dried up, and conflict broke out. For the few that remained, for the few that held true, for the vision that we once sought to be true, we were on our own. The government of Lumiose turned their backs on us. Thousands suffered under the neglectful blind eye of their home. I guess the decline of utopia was too much to bear, especially for a region that prides itself on beauty. But what beauty, do I ask? As an artist, the best I can do is overcome sadness, channel it into feelings of beauty. But it's becoming hard for me. The greed, the overconsumption of mankind, their neglect to learn from it. It's too ugly. It's too ugly. I'm close to believing that Kalos is beyond saving.
You meet up with Looker in the central business district, and he admits to you that he's gonna need a lot of your help for his latest plan in this Project Flare case. He's not really much of a Pokemon trainer, but unfortunately, a lot of clues about these corrupt scientists are locked behind informants who will only spill after being defeated in a Pokemon battle, as can be the case in the Pokemon world. So, Looker wants you to challenge the town's gym leader, Clement, who is an inventor, the keeper of Prism Tower, and a controller of a significant amount of the city's and the region's energy distribution. If anyone knows something about what those weird cells might be trying to power, Looker says, it's Clement. So off you go to Prism Tower. The lights of the tower are down, so you're just climbing what's seemingly an industrial corridor, with the occasional surprise from trainers who ambush you. But after a while, you encounter strange doors and mirror mazes that disorient you as you make your way to the top. You've heard rumors that the gym leader is a fantastic inventor, but it just seems like he's some immature kid running a carnival-like funhouse, tormenting gym visitors out of sheer boredom. So at the end of all these frustrating enigmas, here Clement awaits you. In battle, he uses Dedenne, Heliolisk, Magnezone, and Manectric, all shockingly powerful Pokemon. Again, you're facing off against a powerful Mega Evolution user when he hits you with his striking Mega Manectric, and he begrudgingly awards you with the Voltage Badge. A deal's a deal, so Clement admits to you that he doesn't know much about anything to do with these cells or Project Flare. That stuff doesn't really interest him. After all, Lumiose City's law enforcement keeps a pretty tight lip on any trouble brewing, as to maintain the status quo rather than stir up conflict and hurt the city's reputation for beauty. But he does tell you if there is one place to look for a shady handoff of these cells, it would be one late-night hub in particular.
I know this may be above your pay grade, but I do appreciate your help on this. You're a formidable trainer, but I warn you, once we're inside, keep your head down, but your wits sharp. It can be a bit much.
You enter the nightclub, and immediately it's a rowdy scene, nothing like you've ever seen. As you make your way through the bustling crowd, they seem to eye you up, like you aren't quite welcome there. It's a whole bunch of delinquent types, but also some richer looking folks, you notice as you make your way deeper towards the stage. Businessmen, socialites, and even politicians. Looker takes notes. This isn't your average nightclub for punk kids. This is a hotbed for corruption. Tons of shady late-night deals going down between Lumiose's elite. Who knows what kind of characters are inhabiting this place? As you reach the back, you notice a secret door. Looker wants to press on. It's guarded by two trainers, who tell you that to reach the VIP lounge, you'll have to battle your way through. That's right, this isn't just a late-night hangout, it's also a Pokemon fight club for the rowdiest of trainers. That's because this is a hotspot for unregulated Mega Evolution battles. Very illegal and very dangerous. But the mission comes first. You seem hesitant, but Looker gives you an encouraging nod. It's time to face off against these trainers, who challenge you with their unstable but powerful Megas in a string of tense battles in the nightclub's fight ring. This gives you a good opportunity to encounter these forms outside of the context of boss battles. Once you win, you're granted access to the secretive lounge area of the club, entirely composed of elite trainers and Kalos' most wealthy. Here, you spot a suspicious-looking character, a scientist, who vaguely resembles the ones you saw back in the caves. Indeed, she just received a package from a businessman. It's a cell vial, similar to the one in Looker's custody. You know what to do. It's time to confront them and learn the truth, once and for all. You approach the woman, but it's Essentia, the vigilante from the news. They give you one look and they dart out of the nightclub. You both pursue Essentia on foot, but it's clear that you're outmatched. They can scale rooftops, run, and even send blasts of energy to cut through objects like paper to escape. almost like the strange suit they're wearing grants them the strength of a Pokemon. Eventually, you catch up after a mad dash through the outer boulevards, cornering Essentia in an alleyway with Looker. Desperate, Essentia tries to escape, but the vial slips loose.
Look out!
The Essentia mask lies in pieces, shattered by the force of the blast. Finally, you're face to face with the real Essentia. Of all the people to be behind the mask of Essentia, someone who just got in the way of a crucial mission for who knows what motive, the last person you suspected was Kalos' reclusive champion. You and Looker approach her, ready to apprehend, but she freezes on the verge of tears. It's clear she isn't working with Project Flare. No, maybe she was after the same thing both you and Looker were. Eventually, she drops to her knees, defeated.
I had to do it. It was the only way I could help Kalos. Look at this city. Look at this region. People are hungry for solutions. I love Kalos, but wearing this stupid mask, it was my one chance to make a difference. Look, do what you need to do. I don't care anymore.
So, you managed to let what we needed slip right through our fingers, and you attracted some unwanted attention.
Oh, hush. I'll admit I didn't see that pesky Nightcrawler nabbing when I got. But I've got a contingency plan.
This had better be good.
So, we could go cell after cell, tracking down each one and hoping things don't get screwed up like they just did. But that takes time. It's boring.
But the ancient texts, they say we need them all to bring this to life.
That's not entirely true, boss. Zerosic says that these cells are reactive, adaptive. If we pump enough power into the few that we have, especially with a strong enough power source, they'll act as strong, no, stronger, than if we'd hunted them down at Slugma's pace.
I've waited my whole life to do this. These charades have made me weary, impatient. I hate it. You have my permission to go to Lysandre City. I have just the plan for you.
Listen, champion. Right now there's a whale lord-sized hole in the center of town, and as far as I can surmise, this is your doing. Mask or no mask. Now, if you want to clear your name, I'd advise you come along with us and cooperate with the interests of the international police.
He asks Diantha if she knows where that scientist might be headed next, but she refuses to answer. You tell Looker that you had plans to meet the professor in Lysandre City. There, you were going to head to the Pokeball factory and learn more about sustainable energy for the region. So maybe starting there isn't a bad idea, since it seems like Project Flare is trying to collect power as well, and that seems like a good place. Plus, if it turns out the scientists are there, well, between you, Looker, the professor, and Diantha, you'll have 4 strong trainers capable of shutting them down once and for all. Diantha thinks about it, and she agrees to go along, if only because Looker's kind of forcing her hand. She isn't happy about it. She works alone, she says, and once she fetches her replacement, the mask stays on. Like she said, to her, the Essentia persona is her one way of helping out the region, and no one gets in the way of that. So, you're free to resume your journey once again, headed north to the fabled fairy city of Lysandre. On the way, you travel through cloudy, murky marshlands, battling more trainers and collecting more members for your team. You run into Serena again, who's also heading towards Lysandre City to challenge the gym. She seemed a lot more bubbly back before Shallower City, and it's clear she's taking the loss to you pretty hard. You battle her, and she uses a team of her fully evolved starter, her evolved Kanto starter, Talonflame, the fossil you didn't pick, and a newly acquired Eevee, unable to evolve for now. You win once again, and she learns you're off to Lysandre City as well, to help out the professor and find Project Flare. You expect her to jump at the opportunity to help out like she usually does. But she shakes her head, and she says she won't help you. After all, she seems different now. As you move along the routes, you come across 3 strangely dressed trainers. One of them seems to be overcome with emotion as her friends console her. She introduces herself as Valerie, alongside Olympia and Wolfric. They're all Kalos gym leaders, But Olympia has had some anxiety recently, since she's a psychic and she's had some disturbing premonitions about a calamity facing the region. She enlisted her best friend Valerie to patrol northeastern Kalos, seeking to solve this Project Flare issue alongside Wulfric, because few of the other gym leaders seem to be stepping up. You tell them you're trying to go after trouble as well, so Wulfric proposes a deal. You go along with them through this route to ease Olympia's worries, and Valerie will help you get into the Pokeball factory. So you head through the route with the trio and you come across a strange house in disrepair, lying rotting in the swamp. Wulfric explains that in his youth, him and Ramos led Kalos' Pokemon Ranger program. But over the years, the program was slowly defunded and discontinued by the region's government. Now, no rangers exist in this part of the region to save wild Pokemon in the swamp from the harmful effects of the nearby factory, so for now, the building just sits as a shack, a lost relic of Kalos' past, and a painful reminder for Wulfric of the lost mission of his youth. But you need to venture inside, since Olympia cries in pain as she feels a dangerous premonition coming from within. You enter the shack, turning corners as you spot a shadowy figure against the walls. Eventually, it leaps out at you. A sickly green canine Pokemon, one that you've never seen. It's a tough fight, but you defeat it, and it bursts into pieces, scattering across the shack and disappearing into darkness. The beast, what my visions were warning me of, Olympia says. Its power continues to grow. Wulfric and Valerie look concerned. They've never seen this type of Pokemon either. But something about the Pokemon seemed familiar to you. Something about its composition. Either way, you've cured Olympia of her debilitating premonitions. For now. Wulfric returns to Snowbell City to patrol his side of the region more for this beast, and Valerie says to meet her in Laver City whenever you're ready. Here in Laver City, you admire the mystical aura of the historic settlement and its central clock tower. At the center of town, you're free to meet Valerie, who wants you to first battle her at her gym before she helps you. Here she boasts a lot of the region's native fairy types, leading off with a Carbink, Slurpuff, and Aromatisse, before she sends in a very powerful Mawile that could also Mega Evolve into Mega Mawile. Once you defeat her team, she grants you the Fairy Badge. Finally, it's time to head up to the Pokeball factory. It's a harsh contrast from the quaint beauty of Laver City, a bleak, gated facility lying at the north end of town. Valerie meets you alongside the professor, ready to help you both inside to meet the president, but the facility is already broken down. That can't be a good sign. The three of you decide to venture inside to investigate. Inside, you encounter the same scientists from before, the woman from the nightclub and the man from the caves. They're threatening the president of this facility, forcing him to extract all the power from the main reactor. He refuses, begging them to let him go. Is this money they're after? Is that what this is about? The female scientist cackles. She remarks that the president is thinking in such two-dimensional terms, because when they extract what they want, they'll have achieved something far greater than what money can buy. Just then, Looker and Essentia bust in, here to provide help. The four of you stand guard, with your Pokemon ready to battle. You fight your way through Project Flare Grunts, but once you reach the end of all of them, the main scientists don't bother. The female scientist unleashes one of the cubes, revealing the fearsome beast from the swamp. It seems to know your every move in battle, unlike any other Pokemon. Its powers only enhanced since the last time you saw it. The scientists smirk. It's a no-win situation. Despite your best efforts, you all lose against the creature. The beast's battle was tough enough for a distraction, and they got what they wanted. They escape the facility before you can catch them, and the Pokeball factory screeches to a halt. The group sits there, defeated. For the first time in your journey, you lost. For some, that disappointment quickly turns to anger. Looker lashes out at Essentia, reminding her that this is all her fault. If she hadn't gotten in the way in the mission in the club, Project Flare wouldn't have come here and been able to power up whatever that creature was. In the wake of this, Diantha, still under her Essentia mask, slips out without a word, ashamed of her failure and now completely on her own once again. The professor gets angry at Looker, upset that he's foolishly and impatiently rushed into this Flare case alone, taking advantage of you, the player, by putting you in dangerous situations like the Mega Fight Ring in Lumiose. But Looker retorts, saying the professor has been sitting idly on his hands, and he hasn't really done anything to protect Kalos. Instead, he's relying on ridiculous old legends to solve modern problems. The two clearly don't see eye to eye, but neither of the two adults are mad at you. You're just an impressionable kid, unfairly thrust into the conflicts of these two men. But maybe these two things, Looker's quest to track down those mysterious cells, and the Professor's quest to track down the power of Mega Evolution for the good of Kalos, are more linked than they each initially thought. After all, these cells are definitely tied to energy in some way. Whether they contain energy themselves, or they're attracted to it, feeding off of it, they keep turning up in spots with tons of it. It all sounds an awful lot like what the Elder told you at the Tower of Mastery, about Zygarde's remnant power splintered into thousands of cores. Perhaps this is a lot more dangerous than he first thought. So whatever Project Flare is building up, it'll only become more impossible to defeat the more cells they amass. So it's time to be proactive. You need to find the remaining cells and learn the truth about them before Project Flare can get their hands on them. Both men now have different locations in Eastern Kalos in mind for where to go next. Two locations that are each known to contain massive amounts of energy, so consequently, they may contain cells. They're going to split up to tackle both locations, and it's up to you which one you choose to go with. So you can either venture with Sycamore, into the secluded grottos of the Winding Woods, or with Looker, into the depths of Terminus Cave. Choose wisely, because there are some key differences based off of your choice, of who to go with, that'll come into play later on. So with your decision made, you head on your way. Both locations are very far away from where you stand now in Lavere City, so this part of the game opens up, and there aren't really any scripted plot events until you trigger them by going to the woods or the cave. So, until you reach whichever destination you choose, you're free to simply explore at your own pace, visit optional towns and routes, and of course the mandatory ones on your way to the last 2 gym badges. You could pass through Route 16's Lost Hotel, a punk hangout and evidence of more of the region's crumbling infrastructure. Or you could explore the Frost Cavern, a pristine cave that was once used for mining, but is now abandoned and reclaimed by Pokemon who live in the icy crevices. These locations, again, can be explored as you please. They're meant to give you a sense of what Eastern Kalos is like, compared to the more luxurious, touristy, and historic western portion of the region that you're familiar with. Out east, the infrastructure is more limited. The towns are smaller, and the people keep to themselves. It's sad that many locations are somewhat run down, abandoned by the central government of Kalos, just like Lysandre told you about back in the desert. But it's also nice to see that there's more room to breathe, more room for wild Pokemon to reclaim the lands. You begin to wonder why it's so hard for Kalos to create a balance between Pokemon and people. You think to yourself, why was Lysandre just about the only person who seems to notice this? So this part of your journey obviously gives you plenty of time for self-guided introspection, but it's also time for you to take on the final 2 gyms of the Kalos region in any order you'd like. Olympia and Wulfric, both very appreciative of you for stepping up and helping to patrol their part of the regions. I'll introduce Olympia first, the gym leader of Anastar City and a powerful Psychic-type user. In battle, she'd use a team of Sigilyph, Slowking, Grumpig, Meowstic, and Medicham. That's right. From here on out, the remaining gym leaders use not 4 but 5 Pokemon for the added challenge, and to give added diversity to their teams. Of course, Olympia could also activate the Medicham's Mega Ring to turn it into Mega Medicham. Once you defeat her, you get the Psychic Badge. Again, her gym is interchangeable with Wulfric's in terms of story order, but assuming you face off against Olympia first, your challenge against Wulfric will mark your last and toughest gym battle. Here, he uses Vanillux, Lapras, Mamoswine, Avalugg, and Abomasnow. Despite the frailty of ice types and his friendly demeanor, he's no pushover here. Of course, his Abomasnow would once again be a signature Mega-capable Pokemon, in your final showdown of your gym circuit. Once you defeat him, you earn the Iceberg Badge, cementing your place as a victor of the Kalos gym circuit. Wulfric, Valerie, and Olympia gather in Snowball's Town Square, congratulating you. Usually, this momentous achievement would open up an opportunity for you to challenge the Kalos' Elite Four and the Champion, but with the region under a state of emergency due to the fear surrounding the explosion in Lumiose and the Project Flare attacks, the Elite Four castle is blocked off to the public indefinitely. It's not like Diantha has even been around to accept challengers for a while either, And well, you don't really have the heart to tell the trio that you actually know what Diantha has been up to. And you failed to bring her back to the light. But that's its own thing entirely. For now, your mission lies ahead of you. Once again, you go to the location that you chose back at the power plant. If you decided on accompanying Sycamore, you join him at the exterior of the Winding Woods, on the outskirts of Snowbell City. And if you settled on going with Looker, you meet him at the entrance of Terminus Cave. You descend into either the cavern or the woods with them, as it gets darker and darker. It's clear you're venturing further than anyone has been before. The space around you even starts to distort, as if the energy here is so strong that it warps the landscape itself. Even the wild Pokemon are stronger than anywhere you've been before. But you hold your composure. There must be an end to this, a source of all the boundless energy. Eventually, you reach the final chamber. I thought I'd never see the day. A visitor. You and either the professor or Looker stand there, trying to decipher who this strange man is, whether he's friend or foe. He stares at you, beneath his ragged hair and his disheveled clothing. He's clearly no ordinary man. I can see you're confused. Clearly you haven't come for me like I thought you might have. But it's clear that you're here with purpose, no less. You both explain to the man your journey, how you've tracked the forces of a mysterious organization across the entire region, while they try to bring back power not seen since King AZ's time 1,000 years ago. You're not sure what these scientists are after. Coming here was supposed to provide more answers than questions, but no luck. Then allow me to help the only way I can, by telling you the truth about what AZ really did. You look at him, confused. You've learned 2 contradicting stories about AZ, both with plenty of merit. How could this wanderer know the truth any better than you? Because I am AZ. I was king of a proud nation, burgeoning with hope. Plenty of food to go around for both the young and the old. Pokemon and man lived in harmony, including myself. I was a great trainer. I loved my partner, my Floette, dearly. And I owed this prosperity to a friend. I was blessed by a powerful Pokemon I had found, Zygarde. In its natural state, it was a gentle creature. It kept order, a watchful eye over the kingdom I had proudly built. I was lucky to have befriended it. But nothing perfect lasts forever. The crops ran dry, allegiances shifted, and war broke out. I was a pacifist by creed, so I stood by as everything I built, man and Pokemon, tore themselves apart from the inside out. When the dust settled, I was given a tiny box, and I said my goodbyes. I lost all that I loved the most, and it was on my conscience. If I was a better king, if I had had more strength, none of this would have happened. My sadness turned to anger, and my anger turned to resolution. I turned to an answer. Absolute power. I betrayed Zygarde, the Pokemon I befriended, and I sealed its energy into a machine, desperate for a solution. But I knew that wasn't enough. I had traveled the world in my youth, and I knew that Zygarde was only the balance, the master of a duo beneath it. Legendary Pokemon always came in threes. I searched Kalos for its counterparts, discovering Xerneas, served guardian of life, and Yveltal, the avian master of death. It nearly killed me, but I took to their strength, seeking to use Yveltal to cull life from the undeserving survivors. and Xerneas to bring back lost victims, effectively erasing the scars of the war. But no solution is so perfect. Despite the precision of my engineering, the technology of my time couldn't contain the awesome powers of the 3 legendary Pokémon. Kalos was further decimated, and my life taken in the attempt. You and the Professor Orloker stand there, reflecting. So there was truth in both of the tales that you heard. AZ was a great king, a caring protector. He fought for solution for the nation he loved dearly, but he was also corrupted by the temptation of power, bringing down thousands due to his selfishness. It seems like everyone in Kalos nowadays only believes one half or the other of AZ's tale. No truth is so simple. I can tell the people of your time don't know what to believe about me, and it's resulted in further fear, division, and conflict. I'm sorry for that, and for what I've left behind. But you thank him. Thanks to AZ's truth, you now have a better picture of the situation. Zygarde is the key to it all. The feel behind the ancient machine, the source of Mega Evolution, and undoubtedly the cells behind Project Flare's mission. You tell AZ that you highly suspect someone is trying to build a modern version of his machine. I don't think so. Whoever is behind this, they aren't creating an exact replica. The Professor Orloker would wonder, how does AZ know that? Because if they were, they would be using not only Zygarde, but all of the legendaries I imbued within the machine. 2 days ago, I awoke in this place, standing beneath a familiar figure. If you're in the Winding Woods, AZ would tell you that it was Xerneas that he encountered. And if you find yourself in the Terminus Cave, AZ expresses that it was Yveltal. I thought it brought me back for judgment, penance for what I did to them 1,000 years ago. But now that you've come to me and told me what's going on in your time, I suspect that I awoke because the legendary was trying to warn me of something. Zygarde has returned. 2 days ago, that was when you encountered the strange green beast in the swamp. You think to yourself, it seems like you've already encountered several of Zygarde's forms for sure, and once it reaches a supercharged form, you won't be able to stop it from destroying Kalos just as it destroyed AZ's. If you want a chance to stop Zygarde's full awakening, you're going to need a strong ally at your side. AZ actually offers to take you to a deeper chamber of either the cave or the woods. Here, it's up to you what you do. You engage in battle with the Pokémon, and you can catch it or you can defeat it. Either way, they're both incredibly powerful. Keep in mind this is the big difference based on the choice they made earlier. If you're in the woods, you can get Xerneas gear, and if you're in the Terminus Cave, the Yveltal can be yours. Once you catch the legendary Pokémon, AZ turns to you. I'm glad you wield this Pokémon as I once did. Use it responsibly. But the remaining presence of this one, along with likely its counterpart in their natural states, proves to me that whoever has chosen to replicate my machine, they've neglected the inclusion of Xerneas and Yveltal, the careful balance of life and death. It's apparent they seek only Zygarde and its absolute power. That kind of power alone will be dangerous, unstable, and cataclysmic. You and the Professor Orloker turn to one another. You visited tons of natural power spots around the region, where Zygarde's cells have been found. But you both know there's only one place in Kalos that can support that much artificial power. You, the Professor, and Loker finally regroup in the Lumiose Badlands, on a high mesa overlooking the power plant. You all confirm what you've learned, the truth. Now, everything points to this facility, the only place where you can think of where Project Flare might be keeping all these cells, and powering them beyond measure. One question remains, who's behind all of it? And why are they repeating one of the worst events in Kalos' history? There's only one way to find out, and it'll take getting inside the facility. That's no daunting task, the professor says. In his younger days, he worked on an engineering project there, and he found that it comprised thousands of tunnels deep underneath the ground. Getting around there is hard enough, with our Project Flare members lurking around every corner.
If we are to succeed, another pair of hands may prove useful. Have a friend you can call upon, trainer?
Serena stares at her ringing holocaster. It's from the Professor. She hesitates and ultimately doesn't pick up. That's when she sees a masked figure in the distance. Essentia. Essentia stands on the cliffside alone, overlooking the valley. Serena hesitates for a moment. She's tired, weary, and scared, and her journey has been isolating. She hasn't checked in with you or the Professor in so long. But right now, she's willing to admit that she might need some help. She approaches Essentia, but Essentia doesn't want to hear it. Last time she worked with anyone, people got hurt. Mistakes were made. She failed. So now, she's on her own for good. Serena sighs. She knows what it's like to work alone. All she ever wanted was to live up to her dad's legacy, she says. She thought she could do that by being the best trainer, by being perfect, but striving for perfection, always trying to be the best without admitting you need help. It's lonely, and she failed at it, she says. She lost to her friend at the Tower of Mastery. Because of that, she'll never access Mega Evolution and be the trainer she thought she was born to be, she explains. So now she doesn't know what she wants. All she knows is that the same friend, plus her mentor, is in trouble with the Project Flare situation, and her gut is telling her that she'll just let them both down if she tries to help. Essentia freezes. After all, she knows you, the trainer that Serena's talking about. She sighs. Since Serena seems so close with you, Essentia says, the truth will come out eventually, so she might as well reveal who she is now. Serena is shocked. She can't believe the vigilante she's heard so much about. The one who made all those mistakes. The one who worked alone. It was the beautiful, esteemed champion of Kalos. That shock quickly turns to anger. She's disappointed in Diantha, since she can't believe that someone that successful and famous would just give it all up, wanting the world to forget about her. That's because they should have forgotten about her, Diantha says. All those years at her champion's post, shooting movies, going to events in Lumiose, it didn't fulfill her. She saw her region crumble around her as she failed to enact any meaningful change. So she turned to the dark. At least behind the mask, she says, she could be a symbol for the region, doing what needed to be done when no one else would. Maybe she's right in part, Serena thinks. Maybe Kalos does need to step up. After all, you've managed to do that formidably in your first few months as a trainer, but working in a fearsome costume alone in the dark and beating up criminals isn't the way to do it, Serena says. She tells Diantha she realizes that they can help each other. After all, they both failed at who they built themselves up to be, what others expected them to be. Now all that remains is loneliness. Maybe it's time, Serena says, that they both look for a new purpose. Together. You don't see any signs of Project Flare. It's seemingly abandoned, but you press on. You hear a distant rumbling coming each time you descend deeper into the lower levels. You, Looker, and the Professor solve a variety of puzzles with the complex array of electrical switches, doors, latches, and buttons, before you reach the lowest chamber of the plant, leaving one massive room. The strange machine lies dormant, but it's imposing, hundreds of feet high. Both Looker and the Professor exchange concerned glances. Looker sees a video monitor, and he presses a button. A single message pops on screen.
This will be my final message, a manifesto for the inheritors. I've gone through frustration, despair, and finally elation to get to this point, to assemble what I needed. But all of the strife, I can look back now and say it was well worth it, all thanks to what I've assembled. For years, I've stood by as my home country turned its back on its problems, while my birthplace was erased from the history books, all while the narrative of Kalos was written by the ignorant, the greedy, and the corrupt. All the while, children of Pokemon continue to inherit a world stacked against them. A world on the brink of collapse. A world destined to endure the same tragedies that I have. But I've seen the truth. I've read the history books, and now I stand ready to write my own history. The story of the new Kalos. One that ends this ugly, idiotic cycle of blight. When sunrise begins tomorrow, this machine will activate, imbued with the awesome powers of Zygarde. From there, all will be wiped clean. Relics of the old, ugly Kalos. One polluted by greed, strife, violence, fear, scarcity, and suffering. To that, I say good riddance. To the few beautiful places and Pokemon this world has given us, I am truly sorry. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten, but a baby fletchling must rid its down feathers to become a beautiful Talonflame. A pathetic Magikarp spends its whole life trying to better itself, trying to reach its full potential, its natural law. Kalos must endure the next step in its evolution, with I, Lysandre, as its true savior.
I can't believe it. My old friend, my Lysandre, was plotting this the whole time? I can reason with him. We just need to find him.
It's too late, Sycamore.
Lysandre emerges from the shadows, alongside the three main scientists you encountered on your journey. He looks at the three of you with disdain, like he sees you just as poorly as the ugliness that he mentioned in his manifesto.
You don't have to do this, Lysandre. I'm sorry we drifted apart all those years ago. If I had let you work with me...
Typical Sycamore. This isn't about you.
All you've ever done for Kalos is try to salvage the irredeemable, looking to fix this broken land with Mega Evolution, a long-gone practice from the past. Meanwhile, I look to the future. I present my own solution.
Just then, the figure of AZ appears as he did before you in the woods or the cave, presenting himself to Lysandre in an effort to stop him alongside the three of you. You're making a mistake. I know the machine that stands here well, and I know what you're planning on doing with it. But I also know what you're missing from this machine, and you know it won't work. If you knew my true story, you would know that.
Oh, I know your story, AZ. Someone who didn't quite gather the conviction to do what is necessary until the worst came to pass, and still failed. Meanwhile, I will act before anything can come to reality, saving Kalos from destruction before it can even begin. And I know about Xerneas and Evil Tal. They're useless! They will be destroyed just like everything in this old world, the one that I loved dearly, but can't bear to see continue.
You hear footsteps at the entrance of the room, and a voice.
If you love something, you don't destroy it. You protect it.
It's Serena, accompanied by Diantha, unmasked. To buy some time, you, Diantha, and Serena engage in a triple battle with the three scientists. Collectively, they use a Malamar, Gothitelle, Zoroark, Liepard, Manectric, and Houndoom. However, thanks to the help and the renewed confidence of Diantha and Serena, the three of you win. Though only one of your Pokemon remains standing, leaving only you and Lysandre armed in the room.
It's fitting. The child who I've gotten to know through battle. Here for the final showdown of Old Kalos. Trainers like you will have a place in my new world. If your conviction truly matches mine, show me through battle!
He leads off with his Roserade, a Pokemon that taught him the value of beauty, and a potent Poison-type prime for vicious attacks. He also has Reuniclus, a useful ally that helped him further understand the genetics of Zygarde. Next, Gallade, the regal evolution of Kirlia, known for its equal mix of brutal force and acute psychic prowess. Following that, he sends in Pyroar, his first partner Pokemon and the public mascot of his company. Its aesthetic and evolutionary perfection through its role as an apex predator make it an appealing and fitting choice for Lysandre, who has modeled his whole look after its fiery mane. Finally, Lysandre uses his Absol, the disaster Pokemon, and with a glow of its Mega Ring, imbues Absol with great force to transform it into an angelic, vicious being. Mega Absol. When you defeat his 5 core Pokemon, including his Mega, Lysandre, now enraged, sends in either Xerneas or Yveltal, depending on which Pokemon that you encountered back with AZ. Lysandre would be using the one opposite of the one you encountered. He sees this legendary merely as a tool. If he can use its great power to defeat you, he won't hesitate at the opportunity. But you best the legendary Pokemon as well, and Lysandre's Final Gauntlet has been disarmed. He stands there, defeated. He never thought he'd see the day that mighty children opposed him and his team so strongly. You've only further convinced him that his mission needs to be completed. And those battles gave him just enough time he needed to fire up the machine ahead of schedule. It roars to life, and you stand there, unable to stop it. But then, AZ was right. Lysandre's convictions were strong, but his calculations were faulty. The machine, modern or not, wasn't meant to channel the full might of Zygarde's complete power with no balancing forces. Zygarde breaks out of the machine in its complete form. Every cell has been assembled, and in conjunction from the power from the machine, it has assumed a new look, a towering, robotic look. Its cells turn to impenetrable armor. Everyone else is down for the count, including Lysandre. It's up to you, alone, to stand up to this mighty beast and stop it from unleashing its unrestrained power of order on Kalos. You send in whatever Pokemon you'd like, and it's time to battle. It's as hard as any great legendary encounter. Ultra Necrozma, Eternamax Eternatus, even Origin Form Giratina. But here, you can't catch the Pokemon. Your only choice is to defeat it decisively. Once you do, its cells scatter across the region once again, and you're safe for now. Lysandre can't believe what just happened. His whole life was a search for the cells, only for them to be lost once again. His patience is gone, leaving only rage and madness. He brings the machine to life once again, but it's unstable, only at a fraction of its intended power. The building shakes, and everyone escapes. Except AZ. He stands in place. He's planning to take the full force of what's left of the machine and absorb it. It's the only way to prevent a massive explosion that could rock the region. If he stays, the machine will consume him fully. But he smiles. He already knows what that's like. And this time, it'll be for a noble cause. Days later, Kalos is still reeling from the effects of the incident in the Badlands. Miraculously, no one was harmed, trainer, Pokemon, or civilian. And the machine? Buried under miles of sand, never to be seen again. You, Looker, Serena, and the Professor hold a press conference for the whole region to see, and you tell them the truth about Lysandre, about AZ, about Zygarde, and the crisis that you successfully averted. If Kalos is to move forward, Looker says, people need to hear the whole truth from now on. No more hiding, no more secrets. This honesty seems to have already had a positive effect on the region. Alexa, finally gathering the courage to speak up in the press, publishes a story detailing Project Flare, and the mass patterns of corruption and collusion in society that allowed them to rise to power and accomplish nearly everything they wanted. Maybe, Sycamore says, this will help the people of Kalos realize much of its beauty is a facade. To fix things, it'll take honesty and the full truth. After all, ignoring parts of the past, like both he, the Elder, and even Lysandre were guilty of, can lead to disastrous consequences. He's happy that strong individuals like you and Serena stepped up this time to preserve truth and justice, but he's still pondering how to fix Kalos on a systemic level.
People of Kalos, the time for division is over. Only together can we heal from the devastating events of the last few days. I know firsthand just how costly it can be to try and fix things alone. We always need to lean on our friends to truly achieve great things. And because of that, I vow as of this moment to renounce the Essentia identity and destroy the suit. As your champion, I want to express regret for my absence. You deserve a leader who's present, fearless, and transparent. To that end, a true leader knows when to pass the mantle onwards. My time as champion was one I will always be thankful for, but it's time for me to move on to make change for this region in other ways. I'm formally announcing one last ride, an open invitation for challengers to earn the title of champion by defeating me in battle. From my journeys far and wide, I'm confident I've met a trainer or two who's more than up for the challenge.
It's time now for you to prepare your team and head north of Snowbell City to the icy peaks of Central Kalos, where the Kalos League Castle lies ahead. But to get there, you'll have to cross your way through treacherous Victory Road, a steep path through the mountains and the final gauntlet for any worthy trainer. Like in Pokemon X and Y, you solve a variety of puzzles and fight any fellow challengers before you reach the top. Before you leave the road, you encounter Serena. She's not here to challenge the League at all. It's not her path anymore. But she seems happier than ever, and driven. She wants to have a fun Pokemon battle against you to celebrate your forthcoming League challenge, and prepare you for it the best way she knows how. In this climactic battle, she uses her fully evolved starter, her fully evolved Kanto starter, Talonflame, the fully evolved fossil you didn't pick, Noivern, and Sylveon, now fully evolved from its meek Eevee stage. You beat her one last time, and she smiles, beams even. She's proud of you, and she can't wait to see what you accomplish against Diantha. What's next for her? Well, she needs some time to figure that out. Though she is thinking about reviving the long-gone Santaloon Battle Academy. Mega Evolution may not be for her, but Pokemon battling in other ways certainly is. If she can help other trainers realize their potential, she's all for it. Now, you finally reach the summit. You enter the castle, and you have to fight through the Elite Four to get to Diantha. Now, these guys remain similar to X and Y in some ways here, because I love that the Elite Four is always a mysterious organization of powerful trainers that you've never heard of or even met before, but they each command respect through battle. I think improving their teams, not their characters, is what makes them memorable. The only change competitively is that each Elite Four member now has 5 Pokemon, and some can use more coverage, in terms of types. So here they are. First off, there's Wixstrom, the chivalric Steel-type user. He uses a Klefki, Tyranitar, Aegislash, Bisharp, and Scizor, which could transform into a Mega Scizor whenever he pleases. Next up, there's Malva, who in this game would not be revealed to be a Team Flare member. In X and Y, that's just lazy and doesn't really go anywhere. Instead, she's just a fashion model who did work with Lysandre when he was a public-facing CEO and fashion entrepreneur, not the evil team leader, hence her flare-like outfit but overall nice personality. She uses a team of Chandelure, female Pyroar, Solrock, Talonflame, and Houndoom, which could turn into a Mega Houndoom. Next up is Seabold, the snobby chef who specializes in water types. In battle, he uses a squadron of Clawitzer, Starmie, Barbaracle, Sharpedo, and Gyarados, which could transform into Mega Gyarados whenever he'd like. And finally, there's Drasna, the wise elder who uses Dragon-type Pokemon. Her team is comprised of Druddigon, Dragalge, Altaria, Noivern, and Garchomp, which could transform into a fearsome Mega Garchomp. But when you defeat all of them, it's time to move on. You've got one last challenge ahead of you.
It's not an understatement to say I've been waiting years for this moment. The whole time I was absent, I knew the moment would return when I felt alive once again. That moment is now. I'm glad young trainers like you are stepping it up, ones who perhaps are destined to hold the title of champion. It's not my destiny anymore, but that doesn't mean I won't fight my hardest one last time.
She leads off in battle with her Pangoro, the first line of defense from her time as Essentia, but also a loyal protector. She then sends in Florges, one of Kalos' most beautiful Pokemon, and an everlasting symbol of its royal past. One that Diantha has a lot of respect for. She also uses Gourgeist, a retention from her X and Y team, and an all-around imposing Pokemon. Finally, it's time for her Goodra, one of her signature Pokemon and a friendly but extremely powerful force. Her penultimate Pokemon is a Tyrantrum, another fierce Pokemon, but one that Diantha has trained through years of patience. After all, fossil Pokemon, as you've seen, are only for the most elite of trainers. After you've defeated all 5 of those Pokemon, Diantha would send in Diancie. That's right, the champion of Kalos caps off your journey with a grand finale, a legendary Pokemon, and one capable of Mega Evolution no less. Is this overpowered? Possibly, but Mega Diancie does have the same base stat total as Mega Garchomp and Tyranitar, 2 Pokemon that you've faced plenty throughout your journey. So I think it's okay, even if it does result in one of the most challenging champion battles to date. But when you take down the legendary Pokemon, you win. You did it. You're the new champion of Kalos. Diantha concedes her title graciously, but the fanfare has yet to arrive. After all, for a victory this momentous, it's going to take a citywide party. A massive celebration awaits you on the main boulevard of Lumiose City. It's a parade for you, the champion of Kalos, but also for your friends. For Sycamore, Looker, Serena, and even Diantha, the heroes of Kalos and the ones who saved it from peril. The region will never be the same after this event, but that's a good thing. Sycamore approaches you. He's been doing some soul searching. After all, 2 people he admired most in life, one as a historical legend and one as a close peer, both turned out to be incredibly flawed, much more than he initially thought. Despite that, the future of Kalos is bright because of their contributions, ironically.
It's funny, you know. They both sought to take control of matters they knew needed fixing. They just took measures too far, and at the wrong times. But it made me realize, it isn't too late for us, in this Kalos. We've created a complex thing here, haven't we? The bustling boulevards, the shimmering shorelines. It contains multitudes! There is no one Kalos, and it doesn't do any good to ignore its problems, or pretend its good size can last forever. There's beauty in that complexity, isn't there? It'll take years to sort through it all, the way we've treated our environment, our fellow man, our past, and our future. But luckily, we've got just the champion to lead us through this new chapter, haven't we?
Just then, as the parade winds down, you see a faint beam of light coming from the sky. It's AZ, finally reunited with his beloved Floette. He smiles at you. His legacy remains complicated, and the people of Kalos may continue to blindly revere or irrationally fear him. But you listen to him. And when he was at his lowest, when you were at yours, when all hope was lost, he helped you. And you helped him. The best way you could. The best anyone can do. There's beauty in that, isn't there?